Welcome, gamers of the world. Today we will discuss the upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077. After watching the Cyberpunk 2077 reveal, I was left feeling very excited about how the game looked and played, with its stunning designs, action-oriented gameplay, and a deep narrative. Although what was shown was still an extremely early version of the game, with a lot of things to optimize and a lot of improvements to be done. Still, it was fascinating to see the incredible leap that was being made in the open world game genre. Frankly speaking, it was impressive. As of now, Cd Projekt Red has confirmed that they initially knew that they were developing the game for PC, PS4 and Xbox One. They started the optimization process from the beginning of development, and from its inception, they have been thinking about how everything will work and how they'll introduce things such as global illumination without overheating the CPUs of the aforementioned platform. Elements such as the use of weapons, both in visual terms and in the way of how RPG elements will influence gameplay. Things such as cybercrime, car physics, or the interface of the game. Almost everything is in its testing phase, and there was a refusal to publicly commit to any particular design as of now. Yet, there are a lot of reasons why the game will be objectively worse than what was shown to us in the reveal. I actually started to ponder many questions in my head, and one of those was, what will it take to run this game as it was originally intended? According to Cd Projekt Red, the game is running on an unspecified i7 with 32 GB of RAM and a GTX 1080 Ti, a very powerful system. And the game still seems to be struggling in some departments, albeit with minor bugs. Actually, in the gameplay we saw some animation fails, some facial expressions in development, and the versions of the locations were preliminary. In all likelihood, this will not be the game we will play on our screens. And I think that the problem stems from the fact that the game is trying to be a cross-generational experience. We have to consider that the actual generation of consoles is extremely outdated by now, and will be even more so by the time the game is released. It's not far-fetched to infer that this will limit the game and it will impact it in negative ways. Both the base PS4 and Xbox One have extremely weak AMD Jaguar CPUs using mobile architecture, and there's no way around a game that is so CPU heavy like this one. In fact, modern consoles are only different from the last generation mostly in graphical power. They have much stronger GPUs, yet they play the same in reference to the implemented physics, as the power of the CPU in this generation of consoles is the same, or in some parameters even weaker than the ones we've seen in the Xbox 360 and PS3. This, unfortunately, will end up giving us a game that will have pronounced limitations and definitely will alter the final product. As for the PS5 and the next Xbox, let's be real here. Sony and Microsoft won't give us a system that's close to what we're seeing in the demo with that PC. I actually would like to have a third-person perspective, especially considering that there are many people who suffer from motion sickness, and, well, taking the fact that such a large amount of personalization and customization of the character seems pretty wasted if we'll only be able to see her in menus or cutscenes. But a third-person perspective requires terrain and geography to be stretched and modified in a pretty unrealistic way, so it's easier to move and interact with it. This is shown in games like The Last of Us, where hallways are much more wide and open than in real life. Also, the problem of getting stuck in door frames, behind walls, and other diverse objects in a third-person game is a common occurrence, and it would affect the game negatively, no doubt. The cause of this is that in environments that emulate real life, like cramped, tight locations, like the ones we are actually seeing in Night City and the enormous apartment complexes, the camera would really have no space to move in third person. It seems like a big part of the game's idea is to make you feel claustrophobic and overwhelmed with your surroundings, and first person seems like the best choice to experience this world. That aside, Cd Projekt Red also wants a more seamless experience with fewer cuts and pauses to go to menus. This actually can be observed in the scene where V goes to get an optical implant. It's all done through the first person perspective without cutting away. They have also stated that you will be able to highlight specific parts of NPCs or objects. This is shown in the gameplay when V is held down at gunpoint by the Corpo's bodyguard. You can actually look at the gun and the dialogue options change to the option of grabbing the gun. We can also see that you can look at diverse objects, comment and start a line of questioning on them. This would be really difficult to do in a third-person perspective. Actually, the only third-person view that I think would even come close to being able to work gameplay-wise would be a very close over-the-shoulder view like in Resident Evil 4 or the recent God of War. And a lot of people bitched about that. So it seems that this perspective is chosen by the developers, and it's definitely planned for a deeper immersion and camera capability in the cramped world of Cyberpunk 2077. Also, well, frankly, these people are part of the best developers around. If they say first person is essential, I feel we can trust them. The only exception to this rule seems to be when we're driving, since the gameplay doesn't show moments when we have to point at something to interact with it, except in the shooting scene. But still, it seems like more limited gameplay wise. So it's not such a big problem in those conditions. For an immersive third person, you must have an excellent looking character with great animation, and the camera must correctly pan and avoid being blocked by obstacles. Also, we must consider that first-person games are easier to program and code than third-person games, since you have less variables and issues that can impact playability. Although the graphics and environmental effects need to be top-notch to immerse the user within the gaming world. As aiming and immersion are a crucial part of the gameplay in this game, it seems like the best choice has been made here. Let's face it, as amazing and beloved as Cd Projekt Red is, they are still a relatively young company that hit the jackpot with The Witcher 3. Don't get me wrong, I love their ambition and approach when creating games, but they obviously bit off more than they could chew when they originally thought they could make this game a combination of third-person and first-person perspectives. We all know what happened to The Witcher 3. It started out being presented as a gorgeous game. The problem with it was that it had to run on PS4 and Xbox One. These systems barely got the game to play on PC equivalents of medium-low settings in its actual state, not speaking about the requirements of the original projected vision. As such, in Cyberpunk 2077, even next-gen consoles will have to suffer a downgrade. The frame rate will certainly be halved to pull it off, and the visuals capped, not to mention on actual consoles. The world will be much emptier, giving a much less vibrant scenery, that will not play as the original conception of the game. The solution would be to release the game only on next-gen consoles. But considering the install base of the PS4 and Xbox One, it would be unwise from a commercial standpoint to forfeit those player bases. This means that the end product will suffer greatly because of this decision. We will not be having this expansive and rich world at its fullest, and that is very unfortunate. I sincerely hope that Cd Projekt Red will not seek to establish a parity with actual game consoles, and will give us what was their original vision. We as gamers have the right to play it. Well, gamers of the world, that's all I have to say for now. If you have a different opinion from mine, leave it in the comments down below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up or share it with your friends. Subscribe and stay tuned. Thanks for watching.
No place for a boy